trying something new with my setup this evening, so hopefully things are working properly. We'll see. All right, guys, so welcome to Cozy Talks Live. It is a balmy 98 degrees here in Florida right now. Yeah, we are still right in the middle of summertime. I'm going to give you guys a couple minutes to jump on board. If you are watching the replay, go ahead and hit replay in the comments section. I always do like to go back and see what questions are there from folks who are watching the replay, and also just to see who's been watching. So if you're watching the replay, throw some love into the comments section, leave your questions, leave a hello for me, and share this video. All right, guys, I see a couple of you jumping on board this evening. Like I said, I'm trying a couple of new things with my audio, so if you don't mind letting me know if you can hear me okay or not. Trying a just different setup this evening. All right, so I see a few of you jumping on board. Hey, Alveris, we've got Chuck here on board. And guys, just as a reminder, I am also broadcasting to my YouTube channel, so you can watch me from there. Those of you, sometimes y'all have some difficulty finding me on Facebook, so I just wanted to give you that reminder, and that all my other previous videos, guys, are also archived on my YouTube channel. It's under Cozy Talks. All right, guys, I see some of you jumping on board. Guys, give me a shout out. Let me know who you are, where you're from, what's in your coffee mug. I actually forgot to bring something fun to drink for this evening. Shame on me. Hey, Patricia, she's here in hot Florida as well. Okay, guys, can you hear me okay? Can y'all give me a thumbs up if you can hear me, those of you who are jumping on board right now? All right. Hey, Andrea, good evening. There's my other Floridian. Marianne is there. Marianne, the videos that you posted of yourself walking in therapy are just amazing, amazing. We've got Susan coming in from Canada. The volume is low. Okay, let me see if I can work on the volume. Oh, awesome. Okay. Volume is low. Okay, so here's how we're gonna do it. We're gonna go this way. We're gonna go that one. How about now, guys? Can you guys hear me a little bit better? I know. Sorry, guys. I'm playing around with some. It's fine now. You can hear me now? Is that a little bit better? Okay. Robin, hey. Oh, I'm so glad you could join in, Robin. Let's see. Yes, you can hear me better. Okay. So sorry, guys. Thank you for being patient with me. I'm always trying out new ways to improve my audio and my tech, and sometimes it works and sometimes it don't. So we'll just go ahead and we're going to use this camera, and this one is what works. Yes, Susan, this is live. You are here. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and get started. My name is, for those of you who are joining me for the first time, welcome. My name is Cozy Belloso. I'm a physical therapist, amputee specialist here in Tampa, Florida. I've been a PT now for a little over 19 years, and my passion is working with the limb loss community. I'm just kind of thinking about things over, guys, this today, and I'm like, wow, I've been doing this show now for 4 years. So broadcasting for 4 years, and it's been an amazing ride. And you know, I never know what the next year is going to bring. Been living on prayer and love and generosity of sponsors with this show. And in the next few weeks, hopefully we'll learn a little bit more about what's going to be happening next year for the show. So we'll see. I'm excited because I have some new opportunities that I'm really hoping we'll go through that will be able to provide even more education and information through this show. So fingers crossed and lots of prayers. Let's see. Hey, Liz, we got Benny coming in. Benny, you're in Michigan now. You are everywhere. We've got Alex coming in. There's my Tar Heel right there. Having a bad storm, very loud and loving it. I know. I actually really love the Florida summer storms. I really, really, really love them. It's looks like Armageddon, probably around like 2 or 3 p.m. every day, and then all hell breaks loose, and then all of a sudden it's bright and shiny and sunny, and it's just, I love it. All right, guys, so we do have a couple of questions here this evening, but not too many. I think a lot of y'all are on summer break, so feel free to throw your questions into the comments section. Those of you who are new to watching this show, oh, I'm glad I switched cameras because that one just went kablooey. Those of you who are new to the show, this show is for you. It's for you to ask your questions about recovery from limb loss. And if I don't have an answer for you, I will find one for you. So I want to go ahead and grab this one from Chuck. Chuck said, what are my thoughts on mechanical knees versus a microprocessor knee? I like them both. And we actually had a really nice discussion about this. I think it was on last week's show, where some folks were concerned because they did not get approval for a microprocessor knee. Okay. And like everything in prosthetic world, I always like to just take a step back and see what are your needs? What are your personal needs and what is it that you're trying to accomplish with your prosthetic device? What activities do you do on a regular basis? What are the requirements for your job, for your life at home? Where do you live? I mean, I came to really appreciate that even more so in my recent trip to Guatemala a few weeks back with the Range of Motion Project, where, everybody there received a mechanical knee. And part of it is obviously the expense. And then the other part of it is just practicality. The streets and the sidewalks, if there are any, are really rough, really, really, really rough. And a lot of rough terrain. A lot of people don't have dependable electricity. I know some of the families I was talking to, they didn't really have electricity because they live so far out in el campo. So you got to ask yourself, is having a microprocessor knee going to be practical for someone living like that? And that's an extreme case, obviously. For me, it's more about, activity level. And here I see all across the board. I was talking to my buddy, Zach Gowan. So Zach is an extremely active young man. He's in his mid 30s. He's a professional wrestler. He's a father of soon to be 4 kids. So he's extremely active. And right now he's using the hydraulic knee called the Capital by College Park. It's a single axis hydraulic knee. It's a mechanical knee. And he says he loves it. He loves the simplicity of just putting his leg on and go. Like in his case, when he travels a lot, not having to think about charging his knee. And he just feels like he's just able to just go better with it. And then I've had the other side of the spectrum where people say that they really, truly rely upon the technology of the microprocessor knee because it doesn't take as much energy out of them to walk with it, right? So they really depend upon that in order to be able to get through a full day. I know one of my dear friends who's watching right now, I know she relies upon her Genium to be able to really get through her entire day of seeing patients at the hospital that she works at. And she's also a very active individual. So, for me, Chuck, I don't see, I like them both. And I've had great success with my patients who've used both. I think a lot of it depends on, making sure you've got a socket that's fit properly and suspended properly. And then the other side of it is having the therapist teach you how to use this knee. And that's something that I will never be able to stress enough. In like I said, going back to the example in Guatemala, it was myself and another physical therapist, and we had 23 patients in 3 days that we had to teach how to walk. That's a lot. That's a lot for a physical therapist. But both of us had experience working with prosthetic devices and being able to teach these patients how to activate their knees and how to really unlock the knees and take them through the gait cycle, really sped up their ability to learn how to use these legs. Okay. So that's kind of, for me, and like I said, we have some really wonderful mechanical knees out there on the market. Truly we do. So, for me, it's the individual, what is it that they want out of a knee and which knee will best suit their lifestyle. All right, let's see what else we got. I'm an old timer now, Mark. Thank you. I'll remember that. Right. We got Dave Donahue, Newberry, South Carolina with green tea. Marianne says, I've been doing the show since she's been a double AK since amputation of April 2018. Wow. Yeah. I started the first broadcast of this show 2018, January. Yeah. Isn't that crazy? Oh dear, Jim, that's no good. No good. Hopefully you are sitting in a hospital right now. Having that monitored. Let's see. Susan says, I walked 1 kilometer yesterday without trouble. Never did that before. Had TMR, and I believe it worked. Oh my goodness. Congratulations, Susan. So guys, TMR has been kind of a hot topic on my show this past year. We've had the wonderful generosity TMR Nerve sponsoring the show. So we've a lot more information on that procedure, TMR being targeted muscle reinnervation. And I do have a couple of shows archived on my YouTube channel for those of you who haven't had a chance to watch it yet. But basically, TMR is a wonderful procedure whereby the surgeon takes the nerve ending, and instead of just letting it float around in your soft tissue, it kind of plugs it back into the muscle, making it a happy nerve. So they're discovering that this procedure can really help for people who are experiencing phantom pain due to a neuroma. So again, I'm so happy to hear that many of you have had this procedure or thinking about getting this procedure or have had success, like Susan said. So Susan, give me a couple of details here, if you don't mind. When was your TMR surgery? If you don't mind putting that on there. Mark, oh, you are so sweet. Mark says, how am I and the family feeling after COVID? So yes, my entire household, all 6 of us got sacked with COVID. And, we had been very fortunate so far to not have had a single case for, whatever 2.5 years this has been floating around the ether. But we got our comeuppance this past week and a half. So, we're still kind of feeling a little zombie-like. I'm running on fumes right now, but thankfully the worst of it's over. So thank you for asking. Jill coming in from California. Oh, Jackie, un abrazo, prima. We got some folks listening in from Cuba, so that always makes my heart smile. So Susan, you had yours fairly recently, March 31st of 2022, so not even 6 months ago, and you're already noticing an improvement. So Susan, wonderful. Do I have any general perspectives on osteointegration? That's a very good question, David. And actually, I'm probably overdue for like a redo of that show. So if you want to look back, it would have been September, October of 2019. Yes, September, October of 2019, I did a full month of shows on osteointegration featuring Integrum. So Integrum is a company that makes the screw for the Oprah system. Okay, so it's a 2-part. Osteointegration has come a long way in the past couple of years since I've done that show. So I'm going to give you my general overview of it, but there's a lot of details that I myself need to catch up on, and that I would encourage you to do as well if this is something you're thinking about. So we've got a press fit system, which is like a 1-stage osteointegration procedure, and then there's the Oprah system. So with the Oprah system, it's a 2-step, 2-procedure process. So with the first surgery, they implant the screw into the bone. And then with the second surgery, they create the stoma. So I should probably back up just a little bit and explain a little bit about what osteointegration means. So osteointegration, it's like basically what the name itself says. Osseo meaning bone and integration meaning putting it together, right? So what they've started to do, and now in the US, we're starting to see a lot more of these procedures. It really started exploding in I want to say it's 2019 here in the United States. So basically, instead of having to wear a traditional plastic type socket onto your limb, integration, implanting, sorry, my computer's being a dork. Okay, so you're implanting a screw into the, and then attaching the prosthesis directly. So a little piece of the screw of the skin, it's called a stoma, out of the stoma, and then the prosthesis to it. Okay, so there's definitely a few of my viewers that have done with success. I think it's a procedure. First of all, I do want to say it is a very intense surgical procedure and recovery process. I am not going to sugarcoat that, guys. Especially, it's something that it requires very specific protocol. It requires a person to be a very specific, and it's something that's being developed. Okay. I've had a couple of people on the show with Osteointegration, and they've commented, shared their story on the show. Usually the cred I see now for people who have osteointegration done, it's for those who have had very little success with wearing a traditional prosthesis. These are folks who have very short residual limbs, so they have a very difficult time getting a good suspension. People who have very severe skin problems, so skin that just cannot tolerate wearing a prosthesis. Who have a lot of burns on the skin. It's very difficult for the person to stay. So up until now, my experience has been seeing folks who have attempted to wear a traditional conventional prosthetic device, and they have not been successful. Okay. So this is something that come and provided an option. This. Okay. There's a lot. Yeah, it looks like I'm having some really lousy internet connection. I do apologize, guys. It's just, it is what it is here in Florida with these thunderstorms coming in. Okay, so if osteointegration is something that you are curious about, or if you're wondering if you're a candidate, my advice to you is to go to a medical center that this is all that they are doing. That might sound like obvious, but I have had a couple of people here in Tampa approach me and ask me, oh, well, my surgeon said he might think about learning about osteointegration and he might try me out for it. And I just like, no, okay, no. Let's make sure that if you are, getting more information on osteointegration. So I use the website. That's usually the first place I send folks to. In the right direction there. But like I said, go ahead and check out my previous videos. I know they'll have the good information on there. Let's see. Susan says, I was told by my surgeon to feel any noticeable difference, and then after that, better and better. Approximately 6 months to a year. Yes. And when he was on the show, but he also people he said realized that immediately after surgery, I think he first 24 to 48 hours, there's no basically just got shocked. So that nerve is like very, as the nerve weighs more after surgery, sometimes patients might experience a little bit more than they did prior. And then as nerve heals, then the person starts to notice a difference. And another part of it is also kind of helping with the neuroplasticity, the retrain brain. That's something that definitely plays a little bit into it, and then depending on whether or not you had medications that you're weaning yourself from intaking. Joe Pleben was on my show, and he was telling us his story about targeted muscle reinnervation and how he was able to successfully get off using heavy narcotics after his procedure. So that's something to listen to if you have a chance to go back and listen to that. All right, guys, let me tackle these questions that came in. This is a good one. Kind of in a while. Sorry, guys. Is my reception getting any better? You know what? Let me switch things around. Give me a second, guys. Computer around, I can get a little bit of antennas or something like that. Way back when. Okay. Okay. Hopefully that will improve the reception just a little bit better. Susan says, my goal is to go off of narcotics. Yeah, and that's one of those things. I will say this, though, if you have been on narcotics because of your phantom limb pain, these narcotics are pretty strong things, pretty potent medication. So in going off them, guys, I always obviously recommend that you have that communication with your doctor to make sure that they are weaning you carefully off those narcotics, because some of them can have some pretty nasty side effects. if you go cold turkey off those narcotics. So that is something that you need to really, really manage with your doctor if you've been on narcotics for a while now. All right, so let's grab one of these questions. A question here came in from Jean. It said, sometime would you talk about socks? I know this probably sounds weird, but I've never been told about them until recently. I was given 2 different sizes, but now wonder if I need thicker ones. I feel like I have air bubbles in my liner and socket. So how many of you guys use socks? I know that's kind of like a question, but how many of you use socks with your prosthesis, and how many socks or how many ply do you use? Good, Susan. I'm glad to hear that. Okay. So socks is one of those tricky things that a lot of times my patients will be frustrated when they're new time prosthetic users because they are struggling with learning how many socks to put on at a time. Okay. So the basic gist, let me grab one of my sockets, which I have a million of them around here. Here we go. So the basic gist of it is when you have your socket, right, your liner goes onto your skin. And then after that, you put on these specialized stump socks, okay, to fill up the space within your socket to make sure that you get a good snug fit, right? And these socks are typically some sort of wool or wool blend of a sock. They're pretty sturdy socks, right? And they come in different thicknesses, different ply is what we call them. So we have socks as thin as 1 ply, 3 ply, 5 ply, 7 ply, okay? And depending on the manufacturer, they'll have a little color coding on the top of the sock. So the yellow one, and a lot of the brand names that I use, the yellow one is typically like 3 ply, and the green one is like a 5 ply, but it can change from one brand name to the other, okay? So the question is, how many socks do you put on? Hey, Stephen, glad you could join us this evening. All right, so hey, Tom. So Devon says that, or actually, is that Damon? Damon, what's up, man? He uses 6 ply. Rhonda uses 9 ply. Benny uses 5 ply. Okay. And Marianne says they're very thin in each leg. Kimberly says, my residual limb changes so much throughout the day. I can go from no socks to 4 to 5, 6 ply a day. Hey, Pat, happy birthday. Leanne says, new set of legs, ankle and foot system right now. So 1 to 1 ply up to 3 ply and of the 1 ply. Okay. Whoa. Denise says 18 to 20 ply per day. And yes, it's time for a replacement. And I am working on that with the prosthetist. Denise knew what I was going to come in with and say just right now. Phew. Sorry, the sun set as I started doing the show, so it was getting harder for me to see what was going on. Okay. Yeah, that's what's up, Damon. Oh, yeah, Damon. Kids are starting school next week, so it's on like Donkey Kong. I'm just saying, we're going to go running. And yes, we're going to go running in this heat, so just letting you know. Debbie says, I use them all the time and still change how many I use 18 years later. And I love my silver sock liner. David says her liner may be worn out. If she's getting a lot of air between her skin and her liner or pinhole, I wear 12 ply every day. And Denise is changing suspension. Good, Denise. I am glad to hear that. Glad to hear that. Okay, so guys, when it comes to the socks, hopefully if there's anybody out there who's kind of a newbie at using a prosthesis and you're a little frustrated, hopefully you can get something by seeing just the wide range of answers we just read out right now. Okay, if there's one thing that I tell people about socks is everyone is different and everyone can go from up and down with the amount of socks that they wear throughout their entire day. Okay, so when I have somebody new in my clinic and we're still trying to puzzle out how many socks they have to wear, I try to help them get the perfect fit. Okay, so if a person comes in and they tell me, well, my prosthetist said I should use about 1 or 2 ply, then we'll go ahead and start with 1 or 2 ply, right? And I'll just look and see how is it fitting. And I'll ask the person, do you feel comfortable? Do you feel too tight? Do you feel too loose? And with a new person, I'll just take away or add 1 ply at a time. Okay. I don't like to add on like a ton of ply at the same time because it kind of, it's kind of a fine tuning type scenario. Okay. And then I'm checking the skin. Is the person displaying a lot of redness to indicate that there's pressure or that we need to fill things up a little bit? Okay. So once we've reached that perfect fit, okay, where it feels snug, not too loose, not too tight. Then I tell the person, get a really good feel for what this feels like. And this is what your socket should feel like every time you put it on. It should feel just right. Okay. So in some cases, that might mean that you need to add one sock at a time or take off one sock at a time. And I shouldn't use the word sock, one ply at a time. Okay. And this is something that I tell them, throughout the day, as many of you have just said right there, can change. Many of you will tell me that in the mornings when you're trying to get your leg on, that it feels like you're trying to stuff a sausage into a casing, right? That it's a little bit swollen from the night before and it's feeling really snug in the prosthesis. And you have to take a few steps to get that residual limb in there. And then as the day progresses, you find that you're having to add ply on. And that is a normal thing. Very normal thing. Okay. So if anybody who's watching right now is a little frustrated with why their limb changes so much throughout the day, it's a very normal thing, especially in that first year and a half after amputation. Okay. So here, let's go back. We got a few more comments that came in. Good, Denise. What suspension are you getting? So Marianne, a silver sock liner, sometimes people call it a liner. It's a little very thin liner. I believe it has some sort of silver in there to help with the antimicrobial and sweat. And people use it underneath their liners. Okay. So I have kind of a, love-respect relationship with the liners. Technically, when you wear your liner, it's supposed to be in total contact with your skin. That is how it works the best, okay? When you start putting things in between your skin and the liner, right, you're compromising the integrity of the liner, okay? That can also impact the suspension. It can create friction with the skin and cause skin problems. It can actually cause your skin to sweat more in some cases. Now, that being said, I have a lot of patients and viewers who are a big fan of the liner, and they say it helps a lot with their sweat and they have no other problems. And I say, if it works for you and it's something that you've tried out and it's not impacting the fit of your liner or your socket, vaya con Dios, okay? Use it. But in general, rule of thumb is liner should go directly onto the skin. Bill says, as soon as my liner farts, I add socks and it works for me. Yeah. And usually, guys, if your liner is farting, that either means that you didn't put it on properly and there's a little air pocket at the bottom that needs to get flushed out. Or it could mean that the liner is also maybe a little bit stretched out. And again, creating that air pocket there. Susan says, make sure you don't put too many on and lift yourself up too high. That happened to me a long time ago when I used to be in a pin lock. Yes. And again, Susan, it's about finding the fit that is just right? If you put too many socks on, like you mentioned, you'll lift yourself up out of the socket. So you're not going to be stable in the socket and you're actually creating pressure, right? So you're creating pressure on the skin from all of those added socks, right? If you don't have enough socks on, then you're going to bottom out into the bottom of that socket. And that's no bueno either. Okay. So it's finding the just right fit. And again, when you're a new amputee, how are you supposed to know what's just right? You've never worn a prosthesis before. So again, this is where communication with your prosthetist, communication with your neighborhood friendly physical therapist to help you find what that right fit should feel like. And that way you can start figuring that out on your own as well. Okay, so Debbie uses the liner sock and she's very happy. She's never had skin issues, very active, exercise and sweat a lot. Okay, so again, it's one of those things where, if you're an experienced amputee and you find that this works for you, then, go for it. So you're going to, oh, good, Denise. I am glad to hear that. Eliminate the BOA. Okay, so Patricia asks, if you have suction with a BOA tile, does that eliminate the need for ply? So let me pull out my other hot topic for this year that has been featured a lot on the show. This is an adjustable socket made by Click Medical. So Click Medical is a company, wonderful company, sponsors on my show this year, that they created the Revo Fit adjustable system. Okay. So with the Revo Fit Kit, right, your prosthetist receives the kit and the materials, and then your prosthetist can build the adjustability into your socket. Okay. So you can see this is a demo socket. So this has a lot of action going on right now. But you can have like a gap into the back of the socket, and it can be tightened here with these cords, right? You can have what's called a panel. And let me go ahead and release. This is the right one. So you can see they can create panels into the socket, which are then tightened up. I have really loosened that one a lot, so it's going to take a little, right? And can be tightened into the socket. And then they have a different one called a hinge design. So they can create like a hinge panel that can go in and out. So these have been really wonderful. A lot of my patients use them. A lot of my viewers you all have told me how much you like using these type of sockets because it really does accommodate for a lot of ply. I believe it's almost up to 10 ply that it can accommodate, right? So if you're somebody who fluctuates between 2 to 6, 8 ply a day, right? Something like this would be something you would want to talk to your prosthetist about, okay? Because basically it eliminates the need to use socks, okay? You put your limb in and then you just tighten, and they have these BOA dials, okay, or click reels that can adjust the socket throughout the day, you know? So it's really, really a nice tool. A lot of folks have used it. It's not the only adjustable socket solution out there on the market. So I do want to say that. And if it's something that you are thinking about doing, I would suggest, research the different types that are out there right now and talk to your prosthetist about that. I'm sorry, guys. I'm still recovering. Still recovering from the COVID smackdown that we had this past week. So guys, also, I'll just take this opportunity to say, put this in your calendars. August 17th, which is 2 Wednesdays from now, Click Medical is coming on the show. We're actually going to be talking about their Revo lock. So they also actually created a suspension system, which I have in here. It's also in this demo, right? And they have a suspension system that can also be used. So strongly recommend that you guys come on August 17th. We'll be talking about the Revo lock suspension system as well. So I'm really excited about that. All right. Denise said, I started using the liners because I just didn't like the feel of the liner on my skin. I don't use them anymore. And again, Denise, if you're having trouble with your liner, I would say, talk to your prosthetist and just see, like, is there a different kind of liner? If you're using a silicone liner, would a gel liner be better suited for you? Something that has a little bit more cushion to it, a little bit more of a cushy ride, If you have really, really sensitive skin, is a custom liner, polyurethane liner, something that you should be looking into. I was doing so good today, guys. Let's see. So Susan says, I went from a pin lock to suction, and then from suction to elevated vacuum suspension, and I love it. Okay. Let's see. Mark says, self-adjusting socket is great for no liners. No, Susan, I don't have a cold. I have COVID. Well, actually, I don't have COVID. I'm recovering from COVID. So that's why I'm kind of hawking up a little bit here and on air. So I apologize for that, guys. Thank you, Leah. I know today's like the one day I forgot to bring a drink into my studio, and c'est la vie. All right. So David says, I have a BOA and I am in 12 ply. So again, here's the other popular question I get a lot. At what point do you change your socket, right? How many ply is too much ply, right? If you look at a textbook, it'll tell you, excuse me. If you look at a textbook, it'll tell you anywhere between 12 to 15 ply, you should consider getting a new socket, okay? So that's kind of like the ballpark figure, the umbrella figure that you look at. In reality, it's all about how it feels on you. I have one patient I know of that she goes up to 8 ply and she is going nuts because she can't feel her socket. and she doesn't feel as connected to it. And it starts to affect her balance and her fit and her comfort. So she's someone who has to really keep the low ply, right? And then I have other folks, and some of you here have mentioned, like 15, 20. I had one guy who was on 25 ply and he was plugging along as if nothing were wrong. I think that's a little bit extreme, but that just goes to show you everybody feels a little bit differently. So when you start noticing that your ply count is creeping up, right? And then you also start feeling like you're not connected in the socket, or your balance just feels off, or you just don't feel right in the socket, that's usually an indication that it's time to start having that conversation with your prosthetist to see, is it time for a new socket? Okay. And again, if you find that you're going through a lot of sockets, that your limb is constantly changing, and for whatever reason, okay, then something like an adjustable socket is something for you to, again, have that conversation to buy you a little bit more time with that socket, Kimberly says, the liners didn't work for me. After a week and walking around Savannah, I had a huge blood blister and breakdown. I'm trying to get a referral for Botox injections to stop the sweat. Yeah. And again, guys, this is like, some people the liner works, other people it causes problems because, again, you're compromising the integrity and the purpose of the liner. And we talk a lot about sweat on this show. It's Florida, so we're going to talk a lot about sweat. So yes, I have had some folks who have had success with Botox, that they have Botox on their residual limb to basically stop the sweat. And that's something that I believe has to be kept up every 6 months. Correct me if I'm wrong on that one. And also, I'm not sure. I think insurance might pay for it. Anybody who has experience with that and want to chime in on that one, I would really appreciate it. But it's one of those things where if you are somebody who is a heavy sweater, you have a lot of problems with your skin because of it, and you've tried conservative methods, you've tried some of the lotions that we recommend on the show. Excuse me. Then sometimes a referral to the dermatologist to see if you're a candidate for Botox is something that I would encourage you to do, and just ask questions and see, what's entailed. Let's see. Bill says, I'm on my third Revo Fit and love it. Yeah, it's a great system, guys. It's a really great system. Usually by the time I have someone come on the show as a sponsor, it's because they have something in their product line that many of you have found a lot of success with, or my own patients have found success with. And they have something that, and they love to help provide the education to the community. So been very, very happy with working with the Click Medical team. John says, can I talk some more Spanish? You crack me up, John. So yes, last week we had our first Spanish question on the show. So I do just kind of want to put that out there. I do speak Spanish, and I know I have a lot of viewers out there who are Spanish speaking only, and I do want to encourage them to be able to participate in the show. So if you guys have anybody in your support groups or anybody that you know that is Spanish speaking, tell them that they are more than welcome to bring their questions onto the show. Let's see. Jean says, I'm confused. When using a sock, are you saying adding socks 2 or 3 or going up in ply? Using one and hope that makes sense. Okay, so Jean, yes, I do want to clarify that. So you have your sock, right? And each sock is a different ply. Some socks are 1 ply, some socks are 3 ply, some socks are 5 ply, right? And I think there's a 7 ply out there. I'm not sure. Okay. So that just means the different thickness, right? A 3 ply sock, okay, is going to have the same thickness as 3 1 plies. And I really wish I had some here to demonstrate. Okay. So obviously the higher the ply count, the thicker the socks, right? So when I say add a sock or take off a sock, what I really should be saying is add 1 ply or take 1 ply off at a time. Okay. So if I have a patient who is wearing 3 ply sock and they're just like, I'm feeling really loose in this socket, then I will add on 1 ply so that they have a total of 4 ply on. Yeah. And if they're still swimming in the socket, then I'll add 1 more ply and make it a 5 ply sock. Okay. Here's another word to the wise guys. These different brand names, are not created equal, right? A 3-ply from one company is not going to feel exactly the same as a 3-ply from another company. And I love my experienced patients because they really know. They know like, oh, wait, yeah, this is 3-ply, but it actually feels more like a 4-ply. Or this sock is getting a bit stretched out, so it's not really a 3-ply anymore. It's a bit too thin right now, and I need to add another ply on, okay? So, yes, go by the number, but also go by the feel. Okay, go by how it feels on your residual limb. Okay, so just things to think about when you're troubleshooting this. And also keeping in mind that, yes, they're color coded, but if it's a different brand name, different brand names have different colors. So Eric says that's why I like my custom liner. And actually, Denise, we did, and I really love this show. About 3 weeks ago, I had Ronnie Dixon on the show. He's this phenomenal prosthetist. He has a clinic in Tennessee, POA, and we did a whole show on suspension systems, Denise. So all these questions that you're asking about suction and elevated vacuum, go watch that show because we really broke it down and we talked about all the different suspension systems. We hadn't done this show. I was like, wow, for 4 years, I hadn't done a show on suspension systems. So we did it in spades a couple of weeks back, Denise. So go check out that video. Excuse me. So David says, I just got my socket in March and I've gained 10 or more pounds since then. Me and my prosthetist are puzzled. So yeah, that's probably changing the fit of your socket right about now, David. Bill says, I'm in 1 to 3 ply anymore and I lose proprioception. There you go, Bill. Yeah. And there's some people, and I've noticed definitely folks who are more active, they really don't like having a lot of ply because they need that connection. They need that sense of proprioception within their socket. Tom says, I get Botox every 4 months and my insurance covers it. Thank you, Tom. Yes, Dawn. Ronnie is wonderful, Denise. And again, like Ronnie has a wonderful perspective of all the suspension systems. And then August 17th, like I mentioned, Click Medical's coming on the show. And with Joe Mahan, another phenomenal prosthetist. So we're going to be talking about suspension systems there as well. Okay. Jean says, do you have to have a doctor's order or does the prosthetist care order them? Thanks for the clarification on the ply. Jean, if you're talking about the socks themselves, yes, I believe you have to have a doctor's order. It's considered medical equipment, and then your prosthetist can issue them for you. Okay, so, here's a good one. Here was a question that had come in. So this question was from someone who emailed me about her brother. Her brother recently became a double below the knee amputee. And he's had quite a rough road in terms of his mobility. So he is he's still in the very beginning stages of his rehab process. So for now, they need to look about getting a wheelchair for him. So she was asking me, what are some of the considerations with getting a wheelchair for someone who's a bilateral below the knee amputee? And this is something that can apply for anyone who uses a wheelchair for their mobility. Okay. So a couple things to consider, guys. The weight, right? The weight of the wheelchair. Try to always get the lightest wheelchair possible, right? This is for anybody who might have to push you in the wheelchair. This is for you having to push yourself in the wheelchair. This is for whomever is having to lift the wheelchair into and out of a car, right? Those wheelchairs can get pretty cumbersome, especially if it's like the transport kind of wheelchairs. And it's worth spending a little bit more to get the lighter weight wheelchair, okay? Really gives you a little bit more of that independence. Other things to consider, removable armrests, okay? A lot of people really don't think about this a lot, right? Movable armrests can come in really handy, especially when you're transferring from your wheelchair to your bed as a double amputee, double limb amputee. Those of you who are standing to transfer, obviously you want to use those armrests, right? So you can push down. But if you're someone who's transferring directly from the chair to the next surface, having those removable armrests makes a huge world of difference, right? So making sure that those are easily removable. For my double amputees, whether you're a double below the knee or double above the knee, the axle on your wheelchair has to be set back, and I believe it's by 2 inches. And the reason for that is because your wheelchair will continue to tip over because you don't have the weight of your lower legs. This is usually more applicable to my double above the knee amputees, where they have to really get that axle set back by a couple of inches, okay? But again, this is something to help prevent the wheelchair from tipping, okay? And these are all things to consider, guys. Hey, Lena, you remember that question on our board exams? How many inches back do we have to set the axle on a wheelchair for bilateral amputee? That girl's one of my best colleagues right there. So let's see if she remembers that question from her board exams. That was a question on our board exams once upon a time. So again, getting that axle set back. Now, everything being said with a wheelchair, if you find that you are in that environment, if you are in inpatient rehab and you are looking at this equipment, this is where you really need to communicate with your physical therapist, guys. When it comes to ordering durable medical equipment, whether it's shower or tub bench, wheelchairs, walkers, canes, crutches, anything like that, you must have a conversation with your physical therapist and or your occupational therapist. Okay, so many times patients have come into my clinic and they have all of this equipment that their very well-meaning doctor prescribed for them, or sometimes even their prosthetist had them get, and it's not the right equipment. And the problem is their insurance will not want to cover what is the proper equipment. So when it comes to this kind of stuff, guys, talk to your physical therapist. Even the person, this particular individual who emailed me for recommendations, I told her, I go, look, these are my general recommendations, but you need to have these conversations with your brother's physical therapist. And these are the questions that you can ask them, because they're the ones seeing your brother. They're the ones who can see, what is he going to be needing and where they think he might be progressing to in the future. Okay. Other things to consider as a bilateral, whether bilateral below or bilateral above the knee amputee. Okay. Shower tub bench solutions. Okay. How are you going to get yourself into the shower or into your bathtub, right? To be able to do this safely. Are you going to need a transfer board? Okay. The commode. Getting onto and off the commode. Do you need an elevated commode? Do you need something with armrests on there? Okay. So these are all things that to consider when you're in that process of going through rehab. Marianne says, I have little roll balls on both of my chairs. And Tom says, it makes it easier to do wheelies when you set the axle back. I know. And I got to tell you, Tom, it was actually, believe it or not, guys, that was one of our lab skills, right? So when you're in PT school, you have didactics, you have the lectures about everything, right? Neuroanatomy, neurophysiology, orthopedics, trauma, medical, right? And then you have labs where you get to just do hands-on practical skills work. And I remember with one of our labs, right, we had to learn the ins and outs of a wheelchair. And part of that was teaching someone how to get up off the floor into the wheelchair, right? We had to learn that skill. And then also learning how to pop a wheelie. Woo! Let me tell you, my lab partner was 220 pounds and I had to teach him how to pop a wheelie. And let me tell you, that was a bit nerve-wracking, but we figured it out. And I can pop a mean wheelie on a wheelchair. Hey, Harsh, glad you could join us this evening. But yes, we had a lot of fun learning those skills in PT school. All right. Ooh. Here's a question. And I always like answering this question, guys, because I feel like even though I've answered it several times on the show, there's always somebody listening for the first time who can benefit from this information. So for those of you who have heard me answer this question before, thank you for bearing with me. And those of you who are hearing this question for the first time, pay attention. All right. So this question came in from George, and he asks, how do I get rid of the cane and start walking unaided? I don't have the confidence and I am not happy with my socket fit. Any suggestions? Greatly appreciated. Yes, yes, and yes. Okay, so first thing that jumped out at me there with that statement was, I'm not happy with my socket fit. Okay, and actually I applaud this gentleman because he was able to identify that. A lot of times when my patients are like, why can't I get off the cane? Why can't I get off the walker, right? When we do an evaluation, we come to realize the socket is not fitting really well. It's not fitting as optimally as it should. Okay. It starts there, guys. If that socket is not fitting well and snug as a glove, then it doesn't matter what kind of magic I try to work on you as a physical therapist, right? We have to get that socket fitting and be feeling comfortable, right? And the older and more crotchety I get as a PT, the more I really harp on this and the more I really advocate for my patients to communicate and take it back to the prosthetist until we get the right fit. And guys, prosthetists are wonderful people, right? I know all the prosthetists I work with, they will go back to the drawing board however many times it takes so that their patients are comfortable in their sockets. That's what they're there to do, right? That's their job. Our job is to teach you how to use that leg after we get that comfortable socket fit. Okay. So when I have somebody coming in, and guys, this is my typical patient that comes to see me in my clinic. It's actually the individual who's been trying to walk for months, sometimes even years, and they have not been able to get off their cane or walker successfully, right? That's usually the kind of person that comes into my clinic. And I'm looking at a lot of things here, guys, okay? It's not you. You know, a lot of times I hear the person say, I just don't have the confidence to walk without a cane or a walker. There's something wrong with me. And I'm like, no, it's not you. It really isn't, okay? There's something else underlying here that's preventing you from being able to get off that cane or walker. So, of course, we do a full head-to-toe physical therapy evaluation, right? And inevitably, in every evaluation, we're going to find stuff, okay? We're going to find stuff on anybody we do a head-to-toe evaluation on. We're going to find range of motion that might be missing. We're going to find tightness in certain muscle groups. We're going to find weakness in certain muscle groups, right? These are things that we're going to find in a physical therapy evaluation. We're going to find where the balance deficits are. Are you somebody who's relying too much upon your vision for your balance, right? Are you not relying enough on your vestibular system? These are all things that a physical therapist will test for, okay? Along with your balance is your coordination, you know, and your sense of proprioception. Has that been developed? Has that been relearned since your amputation, right? And these are things that we start tackling. The cool thing is when you start addressing these issues, everything else improves, guys. It's a pretty simple formula in that regard. If there's a weak muscle group, we strengthen it. If there's tightness somewhere, then we provide certain flexibility exercises, right? If there are balance deficits, and there's always balance deficits, right? Then we use balance exercises to help improve all of this. Okay. For me, I have like when I have a patient who comes in to see me, a new patient who comes in to see me, and they present like this, on the inside, I'm going, oh yeah, we're going to do good here, right? Because it's going to work. I know it's going to work, right? Because I know that there's a reason for this person not being able to walk independently by themselves. And once we find out what that root cause is, we just got to put the treatment to it and get some really beautiful success out of it. Okay. So it's not to say that every person who comes into my clinic on a walker or cane leaves without a walker or cane, but certainly they leave improved. Okay. We leave improved with better mobility, better balance, better strength, better confidence, better endurance. That's another one I like to pick on a lot, right? Better endurance and being able to walk more. Yeah. Can you tell it's one of my favorite soapboxes to talk about walking without a cane or a walker? And guys, I'll be honest, it's one of the things that has really kept me fascinated with my field. You know, when you talk to different physical therapists, we all have there's so many different disciplines within physical therapy. You have your neuro PTs, pediatric PTs, burn PTs, wound care, you know, and each one of us who goes into one of these specialties, we have something about us that really likes that specialty, that we click with it. And for me, it's definitely the gait cycle and puzzling out what is going on with that person's gait cycle, figuring out what the missing piece to that puzzle is, and then nailing it, right? Getting it taken care of and help improving on it. So for an academic standpoint, for physical therapists, this is something that love to do. All right, guys, I have talked your ears off this evening, and I thank you for being patient with me throughout all the technical glitches that we had going on and my hacking cough, but Thankfully, things seem to have calmed down. So guys, if you haven't already done so, can I please put a plug in for you guys? Can you guys please do something for me? I just posted my website, Cozy Talks website, cozytalks.com. Okay. And at the bottom of that website, you guys can sign up for my email. And usually, guys, those of you who already signed up for my email subscription, you know that I don't bombard you with emails. I only send you the information that's important once a week, if even that. So if you have not already signed up for my email subscription, do so now. I've got some really nice giveaways coming up in the next couple of weeks for my Click Medical Revo Lock show, and I want you guys to be a part of that. So one of the things that we're doing with these giveaways is we're going to be sending information through an email for you to participate in this giveaway, okay? Not to mention, this is where I give out a lot of my information that's important. So please, 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 if you have not already signed up for my email subscription, head to my website, cozytalks.com, and sign up there. Guys, if you can, please share this video out to the support groups. I really can't stress that importance enough. Facebook loves to change the rules for those of us who have business pages, and they don't like to make it easy for our content to get out there. So anytime you guys share my live show into one of your support groups, it really helps get the word out there. So if you could please even just share with one of your support groups, that would really help me a lot, and I would really appreciate it. All right, guys. Yes, thank you, Denise. I'm looking forward to having you there too. All right, guys. As always, thank you for letting me be a part of your lives this evening, and I will see you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel.